A call to trust. Lessons from the life of Joseph Kingdom. Examples. Trusting God is not always easy, especially when life takes unexpected turns. The story of Joseph in the Bible, Genesis 37 to 50, is a powerful example of what it means to trust in God's plan, even when circumstances seem hopeless. Joseph's journey from favored son to slave, prisoner, and eventually ruler of Egypt teaches us that God's timing and purpose are always greater than our understanding. Betrayed but not forsaken. Joseph was his father Jacob's favorite son, which made his brothers jealous. Their envy led them to betray him, selling him into slavery, and deceiving their father into thinking he was dead. Genesis 37:12 through 36. Imagine the pain Joseph must have felt. Abandoned by his own family, stripped of his home, and forced into a life of servitude. Yet, even in slavery, Joseph remained faithful and trusted in God. A test of character in trials. In Egypt, Joseph was sold to Potiphar, a high-ranking official. Because of his faithfulness, God granted him success, and he rose to a position of authority in Potiphar's house. Genesis 39:2 through 6. However, when falsely accused by Potiphar's wife, he was thrown into prison. Genesis 39:7 through 20. At this moment, Joseph had every reason to doubt, complain, or even abandon his faith. Instead, he continued to trust God. Even in prison, the Lord was with him, granting him favor in the eyes of the prison warden. Genesis 39:21 to 23. Joseph's ability to interpret dreams, a gift from God, eventually led to his release and rise to power in Pharaoh's court. Genesis 41:14 to 40. From the pit to the palace. After interpreting Pharaoh's dream, Joseph was elevated to second in command over all of Egypt. He wisely prepared the nation for a coming famine, which ultimately led to his reconciliation with his family. Genesis 42 to 45. The very brothers who betrayed him were now dependent on him for survival. Instead of seeking revenge, Joseph forgave them, recognizing that God had used his suffering for a greater purpose. Joseph declared to his brothers, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." Genesis 50:20, New International Version. This statement captures the essence of trust, believing that God's plan is at work even when we don't understand it. Lessons for us today. God is in control, even in suffering. Joseph's life reminds us that God can use our pain for a greater purpose. What seems like a setback may be part of His divine setup for something greater. Remain faithful in every season. Whether Joseph was a slave, a prisoner, or a ruler, he remained faithful to God. We must do the same, trusting that God's presence never leaves us. Forgiveness brings freedom. Joseph chose forgiveness over bitterness, allowing him to walk in God's blessing. Holding on to resentment only hinders our ability to move forward. God's timing is perfect. Joseph waited years to see the fulfillment of God's plan. Our seasons of waiting are not wasted. They are times of preparation for what God has in store. A call to trust. Like Joseph, we may go through seasons of betrayal, hardship, and uncertainty, but his story is a call to trust, to believe that God is working all things for our good. Romans 8:28. No matter where you are in your journey, trust in God's plan, remain faithful, and know that He is always with you. What situation in your life requires trust today? Surrender it to God and watch Him turn your trials into triumphs.